Satya, thank you for being with us today.
Pleasure.
So I would like to talk to you about the role of private finance in sustainable land use. So you are involved in the Tropical Landscapes Finance Facility run by UN Environment.
Well, it's a partnership. It's not just UN Environment. It's a partnership of UN Environment, World Agroforestry Center, BNP Paribas, and ADM Capital. Yeah, the work started in Jakarta. The UN had a Red Plus office called UN Orchid, and I was heading that office. As part of the work of UN Orchid, we were looking at various options of how to get finance to the sectors that need it the most, because the challenge is not in the fact that there is a lot of need and that there is a lot of possibilities, but the challenge is in finding finance that can help those opportunities materialize. So that's where we were working with a whole bunch of partners.
What is the facility's goal?
Well, the goal is to reach up to $1 billion in investment by 2019. That's the minimum we want to do. That's what we promised. And although this does not use any government of Indonesia resources, but it is very strongly supported by the government of Indonesia. We were launched by the coordinating Minister of Economic Affairs, Pak Darmin Nasution, in his ministry.
What was that process like, Satya? I can't imagine it to have been easy.
The biggest challenge is that there's a lot of skepticism that this is not possible. If it was possible, somebody would have already done it. But our counter always was that there's always a first time for everything. And what's the harm in coming together as a partnership in a shared cause and then work together, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. What's the worst? It won't work, and then we close it down. But now as we see, it works. And by coming together of partners, by breaking down the risks involved, this is the biggest challenge, is that investors say, oh, there's a lot of risk, we don't want to get into this. But the risks are also the rewards, because the rewards for the community, the rewards for the environment, the rewards for the country and the planet. So I think the rewards far outweigh the risks.
Satya, you touched on the social and environmental benefits, but what about the financial benefits? We were talking about the private sector, and what's motivating them?
If you ask me, I think it's profitable, that's why they're doing it. This is not charity. This is profitable, but it's a combination of capital guarantees, which helps reduce the cost of the loan, and it's very long term, 15 years. So, because when you want to invest in forests and the landscape, it takes a long time for returns to be generated. You can't do it with a 3-year or a 5-year loan. It doesn't work. And that is why, I think the key features are that these are long-term loans and at very reasonable costs of capital. And that's what makes it, just to give you an example, let's say you're borrowing $200 million for 10 years, for example. So if you're borrowing it at 6% and you're borrowing it at 10%, just give you that difference. So that 4% difference amounts to $80 million over 10 years. And that's what makes the project not viable, not feasible. But the moment you are able to lend at, let's say, for example, 6%, then it becomes feasible, because then the cost that you have to bear to get the finance is in keeping with the project's return framework. And that's how it works.
Recently, the partnership was announced with BNP Paribas, one of France's largest banks, and also Rabobank is involved. Talk to me a bit about the details.
Well, they're different. Rabobank was a few weeks earlier. Rabobank is a commitment to invest $1 billion in climate-friendly projects, projects with social and environmental impact. We're working out the details of the parameters of the investments and how it will flow. UN Environment's role is a facilitating role. It's basically trying to bring those that are in need, in terms of people have ideas but don't know how to get access to that finance, and to bring the banks together. That's our role. We don't deal with money directly. Our role is a facilitating role. But in cases like these, the facilitating role is like the linchpin that holds everything together. So that's why it's such a crucial role. With BNP Paribas, it's a little different, because they're already a partner in Indonesia. where we're hoping to get to $1 billion by 2019. They are going to be a partner in India, where we are about to set up the Sustainable India Finance Facility. The first investment there that we are working on is a landscapes investment of $2.5 billion. So if you add up that billion and 2.5, it's already up to $3.5 billion. So BNP Paribas is already a big part of the partnership. So they thought that, okay, we're already doing all these things, let's scale it up to 10 billion. So that's a global MOU, so that that commitment would also come in very handy if you want to set up something, let's say an Africa sustainability facility or something in Latin America and other parts of the world. So it's more of a global arrangement, not specific to any country. But if you look at what already is happening in Indonesia or in India, it's a very credible commitment, because they're already up to $3.5 billion by the end of 2018, early 2019. So 10 billion is not an imaginary figure.
Yeah.
We'll get there very quickly.
Right. Thank you, and we're delighted you were able to join us and share your expertise.